Good morning, everyone. My name is Modernising and I'm the head of infrastructure team at Cobalt Law Firm. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you here at the first Pan-Baltic Infrastructure Summit. And it's actually even more exciting to greet you all here at this unconventional venue, one of the major transport hubs in Vilnius, which has changed beyond recognition for the next 2 days and will serve as a hub for learning and networking of the infrastructure community. Infrastructure, it's no doubt that it's one of the essential pillars connecting markets and economies. Infrastructure projects play a major role in economic growth, sustainability, job creation, ensuring competitiveness, and many more. So today, let's talk infrastructure. And needless to say, we have started on a very high note. So let's continue this way with our exclusive speakers, program, topics, and valuable discussions in which I encourage you all to participate actively in order to take most out of it. I wish you all a great day, and as Arnoldas said, I will try to lead you through it. Let's continue with our panel discussion on investment agenda for modernizing Baltic countries. And now I would like to invite our panel moderator, Jekaterina Šarmavičienė from Central Project Management Agency of Lithuania. Jekaterina. Jekaterina is the head of PPP Competence Center at the Central Project Management Agency and has over 20 years of experience working with public investment planning and management. Jekaterina, please, the stage is yours, and maybe you can open the discussion and introduce your panelists.
May I use this microphone? Okay. Why? Why do we need to plan into the future? Why do we need this long-term investment strategy? I believe all of you perfectly know why, and could give me the number of very clever and good answers. And we already received a number of them from Mr. Alexander Stab. We know that we need to give the clear directions and the coherence to all our investment decision makers for their future jobs. We know that we need to provide the good visibility for the market, for construction market, service delivery market, investment market. We need to enable them and to inform them in order to be ready and to prepare the capacity where and when we need it in the process of development of infrastructure. We need to assess the financial needs and also to assess the financial affordability of our objectives, because we are speaking about infrastructure which involves very heavy upfront costs and also require the maintenance and also the finance in the cycle of life, which is rather long. And we also need to identify and to balance between the number of sometimes competing long-time objectives and need to ensure the cross-sectoral approach to balance these objectives and to recognize the interdependence of all pieces of infrastructure which are coming together and maintain our economy and social life. So there are no more of answers, millions. But even knowing why we need this long-term plan and this agenda, are we doing all our best in order to draft it, to prepare it, and to commit to it, to implement it? So let's try to find it here today in this morning session of the first Pan-Baltic Infrastructure Summit. Let's look closer to the practice of one country, the hosting country, Lithuania. So dear guests, dear participants, as I was already presented, I am the head of Lithuanian Public-Private Partnership Competence Center. My name is Jekaterina, and I am happy today and have a great pleasure to present you my other two speakers who I believe are the very right and the best persons to give you the hints and to open you some secrets on what is going now in terms of infrastructure planning and what is the future of our investment planning system. I introduce you Mrs. Rūta Dapkutė-Stankevičienė. Please, Rūta, join us. Rūta is the Deputy Director of the European Union Investment Department in the Ministry of Finance. And she presenting the institution which is acting as managing authority for the European Union Structural Fund and Cohesion Fund already from the year 2001. And as you know, we have only one managing authority in Lithuania. That means that this institution has a very high competitive advantage and the unique possibility to see all the intentions and the priority investments cross over the absolute majority of the sectors of economy, and also to assess the financial affordability and the efficiency, effectiveness of the results. And our other speaker here today is Mr. Marius Narmontas. Please join us, Marius. Welcome. Marius is the director of the Construction and Territorial Development Department in the Ministry of Environment. This department is in charge of formulation of the sustainable development, urban planning, territorial planning, and optimizing of the entire Lithuanian spatial structure. This department is leading the processes of territorial and spatial planning and also is in the very convenient position of the winning position to see the entire map of our infrastructure plans and could see or feel what is going to be developed in the nearest future in Lithuania. So, Rūta, ladies first. I know that, like other Baltic countries, we have a number of very serious challenges in planning and financing of the investment. They were already mentioned here, but still we understand that first we have implemented the common European Union priority and we have balanced the common European Union goals with our national goals and priorities to harmonize them and to produce the sustainable and substantial program including both priorities. We also have to balance the national and the regional priorities inside our country, and we need to make a number of trade-offs and compromises between economic, social, environmental and other important objectives in order to agree on our investment future. We unfortunately have very limited resources. So we have to work hard on testing each investment scenario and to try and to find solution how to do more for less. And we have a high pressure of the strict fiscal rules. So just the major examples of challenges we have, there are much more of them, but let's start with the first of them. What do you think, how successful we are in combining and balancing the common European investment priorities and our national Lithuanian priorities?
Okay. Good morning to everybody. It's nice to be here in such unusual place for myself, for the conference. And by answering to the question, I would say that we are all the time looking to what's happening in Europe. And we are aligning our priorities with the priorities of European Union. So we are reflecting the EU 2020 strategy priorities, Baltic Sea region strategy priorities in our national documents. We have drafted the National Development Plan, and it's an overall, let's say, plan for the Lithuania, the strategic plan. But in our way, we also have some recommendations, as country-specific recommendations that are going from European Union, and we perceive that we implement these recommendations quite well. But this is on the one hand, because these recommendations are about to having a clear plan. For example, in R&D having a smart specialization strategy, in the transport sector, the clear transport development plan, IT infrastructure development plan, and so on and so on. So we do have these plans, but it's a matter of the, let's say, what change will be reached after the implementation of these plans, because we insofar see the room for maneuver, a room for improvement in these situations, because still the smart specialization is very broad in Lithuania. We are not very specialized. We don't have a very clear vision on IT infrastructure development. So this is still things to do before the preparing for the next programming period that will start in 2020. And today we have quite many of the projects that are European-wide known and of the European significance. This is transport projects, the climate change projects, and so on and so on. But still, we have to understand that taking into account the recent developments in the European Union, according to most of the scenarios, the EU support will shrink. And Lithuania will have to adapt to this situation in order to, let's say, seek for the exit strategy, seek for the exit of the dependency of the EU support. So we will have to change the attitude and to make some further steps.
It is a very serious point, and maybe you can share with us how the Ministry of Finance is planning to ensure the smooth movement to the life after structural funds, let's say, because our challenge to fit with all our strategic objectives to the less resources will be even more. And what is possible what are you doing now or planning to do to attract more resources and to open more space for private investors to come into the delivery of the public infrastructure?
Actually, yesterday we have presented our first views to our government about the heading towards post-2020. And we have evaluated the dependency from EU resources. Let's say, what is the share of EU funding among our public funding to the investments. And we acknowledge that the situation in the different sectors is very different. So we have named the sectors that are very much dependent on the EU support. So it's the water, wastewater infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, the R&D infrastructure, IT infrastructure. So these sectors would not survive if the EU support for the basic economic infrastructure will shrink. The other sectors, as the transport, as the employment, as the education, they have actually another sources or another funding that's apart from the state budget. But they have quite big national programs. But we have still the problem that anyway we will lack of the resources. So the one way out that we think is first of all the structural reforms. In order not to be in a mid-income traps, in order not to fall into these traps. So first of all, we have to have a strategic planning reform, because we have so many documents that sometimes do not interrelate with each other, and we do not have very clear vision what's happening at the national level or at the regional level. So one point. The other point is making the investments or thinking about the efficiency of investments. But first of all, raising the efficiency, we have to know how to measure the efficiency. So the measurement of the efficiency is, of course, cost-benefit analysis, the alternative analysis, and so on and so on. Attraction of the private resources actually is on the one hand, there will be still non-viable parts in the project. So we will still have to keep some, let's say, share of the subsidizing, but in the other way, we have to make the projects more bankable, more viable, and in this way, we have to once again go back and refer to the regulations, to the strategic decisions, and so on and so on. And also, another thing that sometimes we have very good and viable small projects, but for example, such investors as European Investment Bank or EBRD or other institutional investors, they are financing the larger ones. So we have to pull up the projects into the investment platforms and then to attract the external resources to these. So we are we are making the development of financial markets sustainable, and in this way we are creating a better microclimate for investments. And the rest, we still have the programming period, current programming period, so we have to speed up with the efficient investments, and we see that we still lack of ideas and of the very clear strategic vision. So in order to be better prepared for the upcoming period, we have to start now, because 2020 is not far away.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And maybe the last very small question. I understood from your presentation that the future approach for the long-term planning will be slightly different than the present. Now I feel we have two different planning systems. We have structural funds planning system, which is a good, prepared, clearly set program, long-term program, and we have the national planning, which is not that good shape. Do you think that we could expect that we will go to the one single entire investment planning system in the nearest future, or we'll still keep two different systems functioning?
Actually, we are heading towards the single system, because in other EU member states, the EU funds is just a regular financial resource among our public resources, and there's no difference to go to the structural funds or to the state budget, let's say. And now we face the situation that sometimes, because of the very strict requirements of the structural funds, not everybody can enter the structural funds, and then these projects go to the national budget and they stay there. So in order to align the system, we are planning to, let's say, revise all our financial resources, to concentrate them as much as possible, and maybe to align management and control systems in order to have a better management of these.
Okay, thank you, Rūta. And now I would like to address Marius by the questions of different type. We all know the strategy Europe 2020, maybe every one of us. And very few of us know that there are the Territorial Agenda 2020, which exists in the parallel and also puts toward a very ambitious strategy for the European territorial development. And the territorial development issue is very important, since the globalization process making a lot of negative effects to the small cities and regions. And we also feel ourselves, especially the last financial crisis, we can see and feel how our small cities becoming more and more empty. People leaving the territories, they are going for better jobs, for better living conditions. And also we have the very serious challenge of migration and immigration, and we're competing globally, trying to keep people staying in our country, in their own cities, and we need to find the very, very smart decision how to keep people and how to attract more jobs and more investment to the place, but not to take in people from the places. But all these territorial challenges make, in my understanding, the territorial corner or view or approach very important. But still, most of people are thinking very sectoral. We're linked to think sectoral, keep our own toys in our yard, and not to convert to this global horizontal territorial approach. Mario, why do you think it is happening with us?
Hi everybody. I'm from west part of Lithuania, so I have a dialect of Žemaitija. So when I am speaking in English, I should translate to Lithuanian and then to English. So I hope you understand my English. First of all, I would like to start from reactions to what Rūta said. I don't think that we have a lack of ideas. Sometimes we are ahead of Europe or whole world, and the reason is why, because Lithuania started creating urban agenda first of all. Later, Europe nations started and Europe Union. So sometimes we are ahead of rest of world, and this is a good part. When we are talking about infrastructure, I think that I want to admit that infrastructure is very important and crucial. Why? In 19th or 18th century, scientists said that it won't be possible to live in cities because of dust and waste, which was thrown to streets. But when black top on roads was invented, and everybody was happy living in cities. So inventions and investments to infrastructure is very crucial. Another thing is that what I mentioned, that most happiest countries have very good infrastructure. All Scandinavia, Canada, and others. So this is very important, and what we now are working in the Ministry of Environment is preparing new master plan for Lithuania, which will join many sectors and won't be sectoral. And also we are creating a new law regarding developing municipalities infrastructure. But when we are talking about infrastructure, we should divide different, let's say, parts of infrastructure or different infrastructure. Here we see a picture, and it's civil infrastructure. So when we are talking about what we have situation right now in Lithuania, we have too much created infrastructure in cities. And the numbers are like every person in Lithuania has dedicated about 900 square meters of urban area in buildings, roads, streets, and such kind of infrastructure. When the European Union average is 350. So when we are talking about investments in infrastructure, we are talking about renovating infrastructure which we have already created in cities. But we have another part, like big projects, like we have LNG gas terminal, or right now we are thinking and talking about offshore seaport. I guess it will be biggest infrastructure project in Lithuania we had ever. So we are thinking about all parts and big projects, small projects, and but it's important that we should start thinking integrated and not sectoral. I have a lot of examples when we think sectoral. Let's say one of the biggest our projects, Rail Baltica, railway project. The beginning of that project was very hard because company running this, managing this project was thinking just about creating railway, but not about citizens living in both parts of railway. Meanwhile, municipality was saying that you should make crossroads to cross railway, and then railway running company was saying, we just build railways. We don't care about crossroads. So sometimes it happens that politicians or decision makers think just sectoral. But I think that those projects that I was talking about, comprehensive plan of Lithuania or master plan, and new law regarding civil engineering or infrastructure will change situation.
Okay, it is good news that something will change. I understood that each of us have 900 square meters of infrastructure. Does it mean that we need to produce or to pay enough taxes to maintain all these square meters? So it is the reason why we shall not be so much interested in overcapacity of the infrastructure. It will all will be paid by us.
I can add example. We invested about 1 billion to water pipes, let's say, and to maintain that water pipes through next 50 years, we should gain another 100 million. So who will pay for maintaining? Of course, citizens.
It is a very painful question, having in mind the decreasing population in our country, but still we are in front of launching the new master plan, the new general territorial plan for Lithuania, and we have a chance to change the process. What do you think, Marius? How we shall organize this process in order to involve everyone, in order to share the responsibility for this plan and to commit for this plan? And can we ready? Can we expect that this plan will become the one single roadmap for all of us and keeping us together, thinking about Lithuanian economic infrastructure as a one single entity?
Yes, we already did. Actually, it's just beginning of making master plan, the new one, and we are quite ambitious about this plan because the main thing about this plan is that we want to join all institutions, all ministries, and create that plan together. And first steps we already made, and we already had presentations in government. We already talked to finance ministry and other ministries, and we created groups involving all institutions. This is one thing. Another thing is that creating and deciding a vision of Lithuania for 50 years is very important to involve society. So we are thinking about this part also. And what we want to do is we want to minimize policies, strategic documents we have in Lithuania right now, because every sector has his own policy or strategy. It's like renewable energy, housing policy, urban policy, I don't know, investment policy, and so on. But actually, it's very important to have a territorial approach, a place-based approach, and everybody knows that is best place to grow crops is where the land is the best, and to take forest farming is the best place where we have forests. So we want to adopt all policies with a place-based or territorial approach. So we already agreed the government that we can do so. It's just a matter of time how fast another institutions will change their mind to integrated approach.
Okay, it is good news from both of you, and at least I have a feeling then that we can change, we can work together, we can generate together one integrated investment agenda. And maybe just the last very short, simple questions. If I would like to ask you to write the receipt, how to produce the good infrastructure plan, what the 2 or 3 main components you would put into the soup? Just shortly.
Okay, this is a tough question because there are so many components, and
Not least everyone, just 2 or 3.
okay,
most
but
important.
just one small thing. Then I was visiting the China Development Bank, and we saw a magnificent project of offshore seaports, of the railways, Beijing, Shanghai, of the thousands of the kilometers. So I said to myself, well, it doesn't matter that the infrastructure is not using full potential at the beginning of its services. It will use the full potential by the end or in the middle of the lifetime, because the population is increasing, and we need to build up more infrastructure. They need to build up more infrastructure. And in Lithuania, it's a matter of actually decreasing population. So we have to take into account our final recipients and the demographic tendencies there. We also have to know better about our services we would like to improve with the public infrastructure. It's just a tool. It's not sustainable itself. We have to take a look to what we will change with this public infrastructure. And the third thing, maybe I would very much agree with Mr. Stubb that in the terms of financing, we have to find a very clear balance between public financing and private financing. So this would be an answer.
So it is optimization, it is quality of service first, and it is diversification of the financial sources, your 3 components.
Yes, but in the terms of optimization, sector by sector, there's a very big difference. And actually, if we would use the infrastructure not only for the citizens of Lithuania, but also for another reasons, or attracting some workforce from the member states or the other states, so we would have to answer the question how it will change the services and what will be the demand of this infrastructure.
Okay, thank you, Rūta. And Mario, do you have some secrets to share?
Yeah, I will answer in philosophic way, manner. And in Lithuania we have saying that it's better to measure 9 times and 10 cut. I think sometimes we have a lack of negotiation, and we are too speeding processes and too much hurry. I know why, because Lithuania quite young country, and still we did through 27 years good job. And but we have a lack of negotiations. We don't involve public society, and this is one of crucial things, I think. And if we will negotiate more, plan longer, we will act and will have better activities, and shorter maybe. I think this is
The secret.
main point. Secret, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Rūta and Mario, for being here. With the help of Rūta and Marius, we almost have the receipt of how to produce the good infrastructure plan. The small thing remaining, just go and do it, and then implement it. And since here in our train station we need to move ahead further to our agenda, the next station will be coffee break. Thank you very much.
Jekaterina, I have a question.
Yes.
Because I'm a representative of Ministry for Environment, I'm wondering what happened to pigeons, because I see they usually used to live here.
I believe they are safe, but we need to ask the organizers, are they really sitting somewhere and waiting until we were over?
Thank you, Mario.